All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this last knowledge check in the lesson. And what we're going to do, we're going to use a complete journey data again, and we're using 3 different data sets: the transactions, demographics, and the products data. So number 1 says, using the products and transactions data, how many products have and have not sold? In other words, of all the products we have in our inventory, how many have been involved in a transaction? How many have not been involved in a transaction? So let's go ahead and see if we can answer this one. So we really care about products, this data set here. And this represents all the products that we have information on within our inventory. And so the question is, how many of these products have and have not sold? Well, there's a couple different ways that we can answer this. But probably the easiest one to do is we could say, all right, we want to take products, we want to merge it with transactions. Now, how do we want to merge? Well, what we want to do is merge using an inner join. And an inner join is only going to retain those products that we have transactions on, right? So we want to go ahead and merge on the product ID. So now when we do this, we can see we actually have 1,464,471, right? So these are all the transactions that connect to the different products, right? But what we want to do is we actually just want to understand how many of these products are there, right? So now if we were to look at this, we would actually have multiple products duplicated, right? Because we can even see that right here down in this transaction. So here's a product number 179598083, and it's duplicated in the next one. And that's because we are adding the product information to every transaction, right? But we only want to get the distinct products. So what we can do is we can go ahead and save this. And I'm just going to save this as DF. And now what I could say is I want to take and look at my product ID in there. And I want to get the unique values. Right? We see now we would actually get a list of all the unique products. Right? So these are all products that have been used within a transaction. Could always go and use NUnique, and that's going to tell me how many of these products, how many unique products are in there. So I can see that I actually have 68,492 products that have been involved in a transaction. All right, so that answers that first part. But the next question is, how many of these products have not sold or have not been involved in a transaction? Well, that's a little bit harder to get to. So to answer that one, we are going to go ahead and merge, just like we have here, except instead of doing an inner, let's go ahead and do an outer merge, right? And we want to turn on the indicator equals true. All right, so now what happens is we are going to merge all the basically all of the product observations and all the transactions observations together. But we add this indicator equals true. And what that does is that adds this underscore merge column. And there can be different values in here. And we see the 3 different values, both. And when it says both, that means that for that given product ID, it was identified in both the transactions and the products table. Left only means that that product ID is in the products table, but not in the transactions. Right only means that that product ID value was in the transactions table, but not in the product, right? So what we care about is which of the products that we have in our inventory or our catalog have not been involved in a transaction. All right, so once we do this, let me go ahead and just save this as DF. All right, so now what I can do is I can actually do some filtering. And what I care about is I care where this merge, it says left only. And that's because that is for a product ID, which we see right here, that we have information on, but we don't have any transactions. And we can see that all of the transaction information, such as sales value, retail discount, all that's in the transaction table, it's missing. It's NA. Okay? So that means that's a product ID that we have not had a transaction for. So what I can do is I can go ahead and say I want to filter for where underscore merge, that column, right, is equal to left only. Okay, and so I could actually just include this in a DF. There we go. So now here are all of those products, right, that are left only. All the product IDs that are in left only that don't have a matching transaction for. So again, what I can do is the same thing as before. I could go ahead and say, let me save this, and I could go ahead and say I want to get my product ID column out, and I want to get the number of unique values in there. So now we see we have 23,839 product IDs that have not been included in a transaction. All right, so now let's go ahead and answer this second one. Using the demographics and transactions data, identify which income level buys the most quantity of goods. All right, so what we care about is, one, we want to take transactions. We want to merge this with the demographics data. And we've done this before, and we know that what we want to merge on is the household ID. That's the key variable that connects those two. And here we want to just get those transactions where we have household information on or demographic information on. That'll allow us to do the income level summary statistic. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say how just equals inner. All right, so now we have, for every transaction, we now have our demographic information on. And what we want to do is we want to get a summary stat at the age. We want to get the total quantity of goods purchased the income level. Total quantity of items purchased at each income level across all transactions, right? So what I can do now, I'm going to go ahead and multi-line this. So now I can say I want to group by, the income variable as index equals false, and I want to use ag, and what I want to do is actually take the quantity variable, and I want to get the sum of all items purchased. So when I do that, I get this resulting data frame that has a total quantity of goods purchased for each income level. And so from there, what I could actually do is sort values, and I want to sort values by the quantity variable, and I want to do it in descending order. And there, now we see that income level of 50 to 74,000 has the greatest amount of greatest quantity of goods sold, followed by 35 to 49, and so on.